Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans, it's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans and one absentee chaos coordinator with a migraine, geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. Without further ado, we're going to let our guest, Mr. Oliver Longchamps, with a name like that, he's got to be awesome, introduce himself to our listeners and viewers.
Okay, hi. My name is Oliver Longchamps. I wrote Ashes of Eternity, Shattered Empire. I'm looking to write a little more in the sci-fi and fantasy field. I'm from Nevada, and I'm a Scorpio. I don't know if that helps you or not, but
So where
like long walks on the beach.
So where in Nevada are you from? Stabby, his wife, who's normally our co-host, is from Vegas.
okay. I live in northern Nevada, about 6 hours away from that, in Winnemucca.
Okay.
How close is that to Reno?
That's about 2.5 hours away.
Okay. I know the general region to which you reside.
So
I've lived all up and down California, and we like to visit northern Nevada.
Yeah. So the next part of the introduction, dear listener, dear viewer, is how we first found him. So we actually found Oliver through Jeremy Spires, who's one of Nick's brothers of the booty shorts, otherwise known as the Ranger panties, otherwise known as Ranger. And so when he said, "Hey, do me a favor and help my friend out with an interview," I said, "Sure, why not?" Originally, Jeremy was going to be here and they could nerd out over their silky panty thing going on, but life happened, and so you're stuck with just us, Oliver.
Yeah, me and Ollie have been friends on Facebook for a while now.
Oh, wow. I feel cheated. Why didn't I know?
I don't know who added you, but yeah.
I think I added you after listening to this podcast, and I bought a couple of comics, actually, from your store.
Yeah. I got you here on my stamps.com account. Your address is in there. So, yeah. So, hopefully you enjoyed the comics.
I did, actually.
So what kind of comics do you normally enjoy? Before we get all nerdy and the religion questions, let Nick shine with his love of the graphic imagery.
So I like kind of the anti-hero character and little grittier, like the Crow. I like suddenly all the names have left me of all the comics I read. But the Crow, the Grimjack, I like characters like him just because you don't hear much about them.
Yeah, characters though.
So, do you get in on the was it Nick? What do you call them? Capes and cowls, that kind of superhero too, or do you prefer the more gritty stuff in general?
Oh, well, you have the street beaters. I mean, capes and cowls is a general terminology, and that covers Batman to Superman. So you got to get deep dive, like the street level, the street beater hero, the urban hero. You know, then you have your cosmic heroes.
Yeah, I read quite a bit of. So I've read quite a bit of Batman. I've actually got like a little shelf back here you probably can't see, just full of graphic novels from like Batman, Star Wars, and various other things I've collected. You know, just
he's checking all the boxes.
Drives my wife nuts. Oh yeah,
love it.
She'll learn. Tell her the collectibles. That's what it's for. You're investing in your future.
Well, that's why I'm in a little corner of the house.
Yeah, they never believe it until you sell that one thing for a crap ton of money, and they're like, "See, I told you." I collected baseball cards growing up, and I happened to have Nolan Ryan's rookie card. I bought it pure chance in a batch at a yard sale, and I put it in an individual thing, and I looked it up for the value. I just thought it was cool because I knew who he was back in the day. And I told my mom, like, this is worth a lot of money. No, it's not. Shut up. And then our house got robbed and it got taken and we listed it. And so, of course, as part of that process, you have to give it a value. And she finds it. She's like, holy crap. And that's when the insurance says, for something that expensive, you have to have a special line item rider. And I'm like, see, I told you it was worth a lot of money, Mom. See, you didn't believe me. But
There's the sought out baseball card now is Tom Brady rookie card when he played for the Montreal Expos when he played baseball.
I didn't know he played baseball.
Yeah, before he became the GOAT in football, which I debate that, but I kind of have to give it to him. In the era of football to which I grew up, Joe Montana was the GOAT. But
yes,
I guess you got to pass the mantle every so often.
And
so I didn't know that either. I saw it on the news.
Was Tom Brady in Ace Ventura? I think not. Joe Montana was.
No, Dan Marino was.
No, it was Joe.
Let me Dan Marino
before I make it.
I will bet you my next royalty check from this podcast on it. All $30.
All right, so let's see. Well, keep him talking. I'm looking it up.
Keep him talking. Ollie, I don't remember which. Forgive me, I'm horrible about this stuff. But which books of mine did you get? Was Phantom Hawk?
Oh, so I got the yes, and the Bingo. Is that how you say it?
Bengali, yeah. My two anti-heroes, yeah.
Yeah, Bingo, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
yeah, I got those two.
I want you to know I was right. It was Dan Marino. Take that, Nick. I don't know what you're talking about.
It feels like that scene from The Waterboy, and he goes, "He's the best tackler I've seen since Joe Montana." Or Joe Montana, and he goes, "Joe Montana was a quarterback, you stupid asshole." And he's like, "I meant Joe Montana, who's an actor who never played football."
Anyway, but yeah, all right. So there goes my. Clearly, I don't watch the sports ball.
That's where you have me for comic books and sports ball and puck ball.
I watched the rugby, but I mean, America sucks, and there's no local teams. America's rugby team sucks, not the country. People, I'm not shitting over Old Glory here, but rugby is not a sport we are known for.
No, the Australians, because they get New Zealanders and Fijians on their team, and those guys just run like freight trains.
The New Zealand All Blacks are pretty impressive, and they do that really cool haka when they go out on the field.
Oh, yeah. Gotta love the haka. Make you poop your pants.
Yeah, well, I played against one well, I probably should save that for the after show because that would get us demonetized instantly if I tell you some of the cool chants we kicked off to when I played. But anyway, moving along, we're going to do the religion questions before I get us demonetized. And I'm going to ask you, sir, are you ready for this? Star Wars, Star Trek, or Firefly?
Star Wars, for sure.
Okay, why?
I've liked Star Wars since I was 7 years old. What's that?
What is it about Star Wars that speaks to you?
So Star Wars has been one of my favorites just because it kind of had a blend of science fiction and fantasy, which is something I loved both of, growing up. And I've actually used to steal like my dad's old Star Wars books, the EU, the Expanded Universe. I used to steal those from him all the time and read those, so that made me kind of fall in love with it.
Okay. Yeah, the expanded. There was a lot of good stuff. Did you read Rogue Squadron?
I didn't read Rogue Squadron, actually.
That's a good
Splinter of the Mind's Eye was my favorite in the EU.
Yeah, I like that one.
That was the first EU book I ever read.
And that was the sequel that never was, right?
It took place in between, A New Hope and Empire. And then in between Empire and Jedi, you have the Shadows of the Empire. Yeah, Shadows of the Empire. That was a good one too. Yeah. It kind of explains what Luke was doing and what everybody was doing.
The other good one, Karen Travis wrote the Commando series. It was pretty good. Great. Yeah,
good games too.
Yeah, they were. I remember back in the day before they killed our favorite franchise. Moment of silence, people.
Yeah. When I was young, and Star Wars was a rapido franchise.
Speaking of, remember. If it sounds like it's a delay, there is a little bit of delay on Oliver's end. He's not ignoring us. It's just we're going to have to deal with it. It's that whole Nevada. They tax his internet extra, so he's paying every time he speaks. But what are you going to do?
I thought he was off planet.
The house always wins, Nick. What are you going to
do? Dude, it always wins. I thought Oliver was off planet right now doing some interstellar.
We're not supposed to talk about that. We signed NDAs, and now we owe him money. It's going to get ugly.
My computer's going to go crazy again, like the Alien episode.
Yep, absolutely. All right. And because we are polytheistic here at the Blasters and Blades podcast, Game of Thrones, The Wheel of Time, or The Chronicles of Narnia?
So actually, I have to go with Wheel of Time because I enjoyed those books more than Game of Thrones, and I never read Narnia. So
okay,
I'll have to go with Wheel of Time. And if I say anything's my favorite fantasy series, I do too for a lot more than that. But I would have to say Lord of the Rings would be my favorite fantasy series.
Fair. That used
primarily The Hobbit.
That used to be on the religion question, but it was so unfair because everyone said it. That's why we switched to the Chronicles of Narnia, because it's sort of contemporary. It's classic, iconic. It's in film, video. It's in film, print, graphic novel, and comic adaptations. So we tried to pick iconic and speaking to everybody across all the platforms. So there's not a lot of them that do that, unfortunately, because comics are expensive to make, Nick, right?
Dude, tell my bank account. Okay, I can't catch a break here. Forget about it.
All right, in the last religion question, so we decide whether you get to stay, but Nick likes you, so I think you're already in. But because we are civilized here at the Blasters and Blades and no longer knuckle-dragging troglodytes, coffee or tea, and how do you take it?
Tea, actually, and Earl Grey.
Hot.
Hot.
Did you watch any of the Trek stuff, the Next Generation?
Nerd.
Yeah, actually, Picard's actually my favorite captain.
Okay, so a little bit of a
toss-up for me.
Yeah.
Toss-up for me. Cisco was good too.
Bakula, his captain, was it Archer? I think.
Yeah, Archer.
Yeah. Although he's always the Quantum Leap guy to me.
Oh yeah.
Just like MacGyver will always be MacGyver. There's certain things that just sort of imprint who they are to you.
Oh, absolutely.
Not gonna lie, in the 80s I had a mullet because I wanted to be like MacGyver. I
unfortunately also had a mullet.
Don't judge us, people. It was the 80s.
Yeah, but my dad had one too. So because he was a big Magnum PI guy, because he kind of looked like him, especially with his mustache.
Okay.
So yeah, I match my dad. You match your father sometimes. Growing up, should be. Your archetype for the type of man you want to be.
So my
that man had a mullet.
Was Navy, and for when I was really young, he was a special boat unit. So he's the high and tight thing going on, all wannabe Marine, whatever they were doing. Don't tell the SEALs we said that. Not that he was a SEAL, he's a special boat unit, but they all worked together and they did the whole wannabe moto Marine nonsense. Send the hate mail to Madam Stabby. And so he was like, I'll never make my kid have short hair like this. And then I grew it out because suddenly when I started growing it out, he wanted it short. He's like, that just looks like a sissy. So the more he said that, of course, the longer I grew it. And now I look at the pictures and I'm like, Dad, why didn't you slap me? That looks ridiculous. When you look at the pictures.
On the flip side of the coin, you got my dad who was a SEAL. He was with Team 1. And I've seen pictures of him when he was in the Navy. You couldn't tell he was in the Navy. He had a mullet then too. Which I thought was an 80s thing, but apparently it was happening in the late 70s.
Yeah, so and of course Joe Dirt brought it back for a brief hot minute. But the problem with the special squirrel types, because I remember I was doing when I was going to my second or was it third AIT, because I had a couple of MOSs. They had me temporarily on gate guard. You're checking IDs. I think it was at like the DFAC or maybe it was the PX. I don't know. I just remember this guy coming in with a military ID, but he's got like the full beard and the mustache and the long hair. And turns out he was one of the special squirrels. But I'm like, nah, it's fake ID. You got to turn around. And he just pulls out his flip phone in the air where not everyone had cell phones. And he's like, do you need to talk to the general? I'm like, never mind. You go on. I don't care who you are. You can be a terrorist. We're good.
What base was this on?
This was when I was going to Eustis for my second MOS. Fort Eustis.
Okay.
We call it Fort Eustis.
You met a D-boy.
I don't know. I didn't want to assume. I just know he had military ID that had his picture on it. It was long hair. And I just, the threat to actually call someone higher up when you're a young PFC was just enough to be like, I mean,
right.
you could be stealing the Declaration of Independence. I'm letting you go so I don't have to talk to a general.
It's like, do you want to talk to the 2-star or the 4-star? Your choice.
Nope, you can have the Declaration. It's yours. It's yours. You're good.
You got this.
We ought to put that into a book that we're going to write something. We're going to have to throw that in there, that scene where the PFC's like, I'm going to risk that he's just not the bad guy because I'd rather not risk talking to the colonel.
I don't know if everybody here has seen the movie Dog with Tatum, Chatting, whatever the hell his name is. The premise is that he's going to retrieve a secret squirrel canine from Ranger Battalion.
Right.
It said second bat, so that's Fort Lewis. And he's going through the gate and he goes like, hey, sir, this ID card's expired. And he's like, hold on, let me call somebody real quick. And he calls the Sergeant Major for second bat. And Sergeant Major gets on there and he's like, let him through. He's a guest of 2nd Ranger Battalion. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's right. Ranger Battalion. He's like, all right, you can go, sir. He's like, and then he flips him off while he's driving through the gate. And I'm like, dude.
Oh, I've seen the commercials. It looks horrible. Like, never consulted anyone in the military. Horrible.
No, it's actually really good.
Yeah.
I don't know which one you were thinking of, but that one was.
Does he go into a bunch of like muscle heads and they're lifting and he's talking smack as he walks in?
They filmed it there at 275 there in Fort Lewis.
Okay.
They went to and they saw the gym. The gym looks like something from like a Division I school.
Yeah, I remember this. I saw the trailer. Is it worth watching?
Oh yeah, tugs the heartstrings, bro. Tugs the heartstrings.
So what's your favorite military movie since you're writing Mil Sci-Fi for the novel, at least we're interviewing about today? Do you have a favorite military movie?
Saving Private Ryan, actually, was one of my favorites.
That's a good one.
Good one.
See? It all goes back to 275, baby.
Because when I was a kid, I told my mom I wanted to join the military, and to scare me away from that, she made me watch Saving Private Ryan, and it just turned into one of my favorite movies.
I saw that in Hollandsfield, Germany, because we were there doing some training with 2nd Ranger Battalion. They're like, we're going to see this movie because it's about 2nd Rangers in World War II. And I'm like, oh, cool. We go and check it out. The whole battalion was there. It was on an AFES movie theater. So it was on post, and we filled it up. We filled up, like, because there's so many of us, like 2 or 3 screens to watch that. And everyone's cheering. Like, that's the movie that most people are like, no, this is to detract you from joining the military. We're like, yeah, blood and guts, kill, kill, kill. Getting really into it. And then because part of that trip, we went to St. Mary Glees.
Is that where Point du Hoc is?
Yeah, we went to Point du Hoc, and we saw that whole area. We went to the 2nd Ranger Battalion has its own museum. Nice. In Grandchamps, France, which was the first town they liberated after they took Point du Hoc. And then we had to go to St. Mary Glees because that's where Captain John Steele's parachute landed on the church tower. Okay. And then they have an airborne museum there. Airborne gets in free. So legs got to pay full price.
Shut up, asshole. So that's great. Because I deployed twice with the 101st in a leg battalion. But when we went over, we actually watched Band of Brothers on the ride over there. Because what else are you going to do when you're deploying to war with the 101st?
Oh yeah, that's another place I want to go. I want to go where Market Garden happened.
I actually had the sergeant major of the 101st pin my stripes on when I made sergeant. Nice. So I still have somewhere the certificate they give you with the NCO creed on it, and everyone signs it. It's got his signature on it. I probably regretted that one.
Every time when they promoted me to sergeant, they bring you up to the front of formation and pound your stripes in, and then they want you to address everybody. I made everybody push And then after that, I mean, I dropped with him because I was a good NCO. I was like, the Army effed up again, gentlemen. Every time they promoted me, that was my deal.
So my platoon sergeant was a big dude. Like, he blew his knee out playing for University of Maryland as a lineman. That's how big the dude was, right? And so I decided, what else are you going to do? You join the Army. And he decided to go first because he was the platoon sergeant, and he punched the stripes in. I couldn't feel my arm for the rest of the day or my shoulder. So I don't know if anyone else hit after. I mean, I know they went through the motions. For all I know, it could have been like a gentle caress because I wasn't feeling it anyway, which is probably why he did it. He probably was doing me a favor.
That's back in the day when our rank was on our collars. Then they moved it to the chest, and then you're getting like a myocardial infarction when they promote you.
So a little bit of trivia.
A little arrhythmia going on there.
The boats that they landed on the beaches, because actually my grandfather landed on Utah, and then he ended up being wounded at St. Lo. But the Mike boats that they landed on is actually what my first MOS in the Army was, to actually drive those, only the modern versions of them. They were reconfigured to do riverine patrols, and then someone forgot to tell the Army that unit shut down in 1974. So when I report in, they're like, joke's on you, kid. That's how I ended up cycling through so many MOSs, because they were like, well, if you're doing combat service support for the infantry, well, you got to be infantry too, right? If your boat breaks, you're screwed. So they sent me through Benning, so the John Wayne School for Boys. And then as soon as I went to that, they sent me to the boat driver school. And then I got to my unit, and they're like, we drive trucks now. And then I went right back to my third MOS, which is really great for promotion points, by the way. But a year and a half with drill sergeants was not the best way I planned on spending my
I would have quit. Yeah,
it was definitely interesting. Of course, you shoot really good when you go through the truck driver school and you upset the right people, and welcome back to the infantry, There's a danger in being too good at certain skills as a guy. Well, actually, it doesn't matter gender now because they let ladies in the infantry.
They're tabbed, some of them, like 2, 3.
All right. So we've been BSing, trying to make this interview as entertaining as we can around his Wi-Fi. We are going to actually send Nick up there with one of his Ranger teams. We're just going to fix his satellite. We're just going to borrow one from the government. They don't need it. And that way, the next interview, he's going to have top-notch Wi-Fi.
I'm just going to call an Echo buddy of mine, have him go up there. I don't know anything about electronics. I'll make it worse.
Probably. I mean, Haskell used to do electronics. We'll just send him up there. He doesn't have anything to do. No best-selling novels, right?
Yeah, he can take a break. He's got 20, 30 minutes.
All right. So what was the process? Because you're writing the let me show the cover up. So
let's get that cover up.
The series that you're writing, The Shattered Empire, is a standalone book in Jeremy Spire's Shattered Empire as a standalone. So what was the process of you getting invited to write in his world?
So me and him met in the Galaxy's Edge fan group on Facebook a while back, and we ended up, we continued communicating back and forth to each other, and I mentioned that I wanted to write, and he asked if I had considered writing something in Ashes of Eternity. and of course at that moment I drew a blank. I'm like, I don't know, I don't have any ideas. And then within a week I had 1.5 million ideas, and I just had to pick one to email, like, okay, let's see if this one sticks. I just wanted to
go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say that tracks when people ask.
And I just, honestly, I wanted to do one from the point of view of the Fel, which is, spoiler alert, that's one of the factions in the book. From a Fel soldier who's not actually, like, being used as cannon fodder, pretty much, like in the other books of the series.
Okay. So that's one of the things Nick and I get. It comes up in conversations a lot where people ask where you get your ideas, like they're so hard. And the standard answer from anybody in the creative side of the house is no. How do you turn them off? I want to be able to sleep just for 5 minutes. Like, make the ideas go away for a little bit.
Yeah, once you turn the faucet on, it's hard to turn it off.
Say that one more time.
It's hard. I'll be at work and I'll start thinking of ideas, and I'll be in the middle of a safety meeting, and they're like, "Hey, Where'd you go, buddy? I'm like, nowhere. What are we talking about? Meeting's probably been over for like 15 minutes at that point.
Okay. Well, as long as no one dies when your brain goes other places, you're good. So
yeah, exactly.
We're gonna.
I'm not driving the heavy equipment, so I'm safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you didn't die, you were safe, even if you were driving the heavy equipment, right? But did you die?
Exactly.
You got to get that on the merch.
But did you die? I'll throw it on one of our shirts.
Yeah, get like the logo on the front, like breast pocket, and then "But did you die" on the back or something. But so Nick, rate the art because you like to look at the art and the pretty pictures.
Yeah, I think it's a very compelling image. I like the armor of the soldier or federal agent or whatever that character is. It's menacing, which is what you want if you're carrying a gun. You want to be menacing to your opponent. The fractured planet, or something going on in the background. It looks like a planet's fractured, or firestorm or something going on. It's just, I don't know. All the visual components really make a very, like I said, compelling image. So it looks like he's ready to stand off against something cool in a very harsh environment.
Given a little bit of the Halo vibes with the armor style, especially with that gauntlet on the wrist. But I dig it. I mean, everyone, when you draw armor and you put it on the cover, everyone's like, oh, you stole that from insert their favorite franchise. And I'm like, yeah, and we can track this back to essentially everyone's drawing modern versions of the Knights in Shining Armor. Shut up and go away.
Yeah, instead of metal, we're using Kevlar. I mean, it's tough to do. There's like 9 variations that you can do, and they all look the same, because it's functional. It's function over form.
Yeah.
So, no, I dig it because I got a character with a similar helmet. Well, mainly the face visor with the eyes. No, I think it's a cool image. I think if I saw that in a bookstore and I walked past, I'd be like, oh, what's this about? And, read the inside jacket, the author's notes or whatever.
Yeah.
Little description of what I'm about to get into, because a book is a commitment. I don't know. I didn't know that until I got on this podcast, and I had to read a hell of a lot more. I read more because of this podcast than I did in college.
Yeah, but you like when you read more.
It's like you meet somebody, next thing you know, just books are constantly showing up, and Stabby's like, "Are you going to read this?" I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, you see how long I spent on the toilet? I got a whole library in there.
Is that
it's the best time to read until your legs fall asleep? Yeah.
Oh, is that a?
Yeah, I just. It's his first. I don't know if it's his first book, The Residue. But he said it was a horror book, so I'm like, I'm really big into horror, and it's. Yeah,
all right.
Like
well, we're going to pause for a moment while we shamelessly shill for the man, and then we're going to dive deeply into your story, and you're just going to tell us about it. I think when we come back, we'll just let you off the leash, so to speak, and just kind of speak, because the lag is going to frustrate people, I fear. So rather than us peppering you with questions, we're just going to let you sing the swan song of this lovely book. But in the meantime,
we're going to hit the ramble button. The ramble button.
In the meantime, we're going to shamelessly shill for the man. Boom.
Atlanta cabbie by day, amateur auto duelist by night. Ricky Turner is living the dream. That is, until he wakes up in a Gold Cross facility to discover his last match was more than a failure. It was a fatality. Indebted for the cost of the clone body and reboot, Ricky heads back to the arena to do the one thing he knows how to do: drive offensively. But at the rate amateur matches pay out, it'll take several lifetimes to pay his debt. Luckily, the AADA has announced a new nationwide road rally designed to challenge even the hardiest of auto-dueling teams. Dead Man's Run. Can Ricky and his clandestine crew traverse the wasteland from Atlanta to Sturgis, survive against packs of cannibals, roving biker gangs, and amateur auto-duelists out to make a name for themselves? Welcome to the world of the Car Warriors Auto Duel Chronicles. Tales from the freeways of the future, where the right-of-way goes to the biggest guns and death sports rule the airwaves. From clandestine highway battles to primetime arena combat, jump behind the wheel, follow the fast-paced action, and never forget to drive offensively. Burning Roads, Dead Man's Run Book 1 by William Joseph Roberts. Narrated by Joshua Saxon. Available from Three Ravens Publishing on Amazon and anywhere books are sold.
That gives me vibes like talking about drive aggressively. That was what we said when we taught the combat driving. It was drive it like you stole it, kind of was the motto. We called it Road Rage 101 was the class teaching people how to do that. It's not quite in line with what you guys do in law enforcement, Nick, because we don't actually always care if the other guy gets hurt. You guys kind of have to.
Dude, we were coming up from Irish onto Route Senators, coming up from Fob Falcon.
Yep, I'm familiar with the AO.
As we're getting on that on-ramp, that interchange, there was a brand new, pristine, green Mercedes that didn't notice us. And the guy that was driving was like, screw this, I ain't getting blown up today. So he runs into this thing and drags it across the guardrail. Totally demolished it. Like, I was happy and sad at the same time. I'm like, if you were worried that it was a V-bed, why'd you go into it? He's like, because F them, that's why. And I'm like, well, war's hell.
Was born.
Turns out, I asked him later on and about the whole situation, and he said that his favorite movie was Death Race 2000, the old one, because they hadn't done the remake yet. I'm like, oh, I'm in the wrong Humvee.
Yeah,
I drive with a dude that thinks it's Death Race 2000 the whole time.
I actually got an Article 15 for overly aggressive driving in a combat zone because
is that a thing?
Apparently when you're closing to contact and you scare the sergeant major, what else does he expect you to do when you close in contact with the enemy? Like, we're supposed to get in close and shoot shit, right? So, but yeah,
destroy the enemy through fire and maneuver.
Right. Well, he was in the rear vehicle watching, and I guess we made him nervous by proxy. So he wrote me an Article 15, and then it went up to brigade, and the brigade sergeant major was like, "This is just horse crap." And
he sent up to brigade. Was he looking for a field grade? Man,
I don't know what he was looking for, but brigade sergeant major is like, if you don't care that I keep a copy of this for my no shit, this is how effed up this was, wall, because I think it's glorious, and I'd promote you on the spot if I had the authority. I'm like, well, you actually do. And I started pointing to my E5 tab, and he's like, don't push it, kid. Get out of my office. So he made it go away.
Sergeant Handley's next NCOER was like above center mass, promote ahead of peers.
I actually did, but I got hurt before I could take advantage of that. But all right, so other than the drive it like you stole it vibes from that commercial, we're going to let Oliver dive into telling us about Ashes of Eternity and Shattered Empire. Before you start, can you tell the listening audience what the age range for your target demographic is? Is it kid friendly?
Okay, so it's going to be probably 18 plus because it's fairly violent and there is some colorful language in it. So, yeah, I'd say 18 plus.
Okay, now can you tell us about the story?
Yeah, so in the story, basically you need a character named Private Artist who is part of the Fell Marauders, 635th, and he gets put into a situation to where he's forced to explore this derelict craft, and try and take it because his commander, the High Priest, just sees it as an opportunity, a golden opportunity for him to gain power and a few other things in there. I don't want to spoil too much. And they think it's derelict, but they actually find out that that's not very derelict at all. Everybody's just kind of sleeping. So they end up encountering an alien force, which is the Shattered Empire.
Nice.
So does this Shattered Empire get explained, or is it going to require a sequel? I know you said originally it was a standalone.
See, it's as of right now, I believe it's a standalone. It's something that I'm probably going to pitch to Jeremy later. It depends on how successful it is, on whether or not I bring it to him, because if it's kind of a loss, I don't want to. They're like, hey, let me make another one,
Right.
even though the first one didn't do so well.
But you have ideas for a sequel? Should it be very successful?
I do have an idea for the sequel, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I find that common in most writers. It's like they'll write it, even if it's a standalone. They're like, well, I got this idea just in case it pops off that everyone's going to like also.
Yeah, a lot of writers have
Right.
the problem where they never met a short story they couldn't turn into a 12-book arc.
Yeah. Thanks for that, JR. Now I dream about elves, Santa's elves as operators, and space Romans, thanks to him. Because they were all short stories that I'm like, no, we can expand this world. This could be epic.
So what can you tell us about your main character?
Okay, so the main character, he's got kind of a dark past. He grew up in a certain lifestyle under a certain church that the federal religion, excuse me, ends up wiping out because it's an opposing force, basically. But they keep him, and it's kind of a favor from one of the fellowmen involved in wiping him out, the church out. And so they keep him around, and he's just trying to survive in this new environment that he's been forced into, and trying to earn some kind of acceptance from the marauders around him. Pretty much.
Okay. So what kind of secondary characters you got going on there to embellish the story and support your main character?
So in the beginning, there is a one person that he actually talks to that he's friends with, which you don't see too much of in there, which is like secretly something I kind of regret. I wish I had more dialogue with him in there, because it was fun writing that dialogue. There's a deposed emperor that he meets along with, that he spends most of the journey with, who's kind of got his own agenda, but you don't find that out until later on. And there's a lot of, they're not secondary characters, but I kind of enjoy the challenges he has to face, like the creatures and everything like that he has to go up against during his journey. I was kind of proud of some of those that I came up with, because a lot of them, like I said earlier in the interview, kind of showed up during safety meetings when I'm sitting there trying not to fall asleep, and I think, oh, I kind of want to see what artist does against that guy. Let's see if I can throw that in there.
I love it. I love it when writers get, boredom is probably one of the best things for a writer's mind. Like, you're sitting there, you're like, oh my God, because you're in a meeting, you're in something that's completely not stimulating intellectually, and your mind just wanders, and you play the what if game. What if this character interacts with this character? What if this guy? And it really produces a lot of good stories. I like what you have going on, what you've described so far. You have the fallen king trope, which trope is not a bad word all the time. It's a great word.
No.
It works. So no, that's really interesting, because your main character, in the hierarchy of what he does, where does he stand? Is he like an upper level dude, or is he kind of like a mid-range operator type dude? Is he a day one private?
He's basically he's a private. He's a peon, and that's not from lack of trying, because as you read throughout the story, he's actually he's very resourceful. He's very, very dangerous in combat situations. But because of his past, the Marauders aren't willing to allow him to advance. Like, they're keeping him in one spot. With intent, because they don't like that he's there, but they're forced to deal with him. Like, it's
right.
Yeah.
No, but that's cool though, because that is definitely the military in some aspects. Some people have had that experience where they keep these guys down at a lower level for reasons unknown up until the reasons are known, and then they don't even make sense.
Right.
But the fact that you have someone at that level who's going to have interactions with the disposed emperor or the fallen king, that trope, that just opens up for a lot of interesting storytelling, which our listeners, I think, are going to enjoy.
So does this story take place mostly on planets, or is it mostly on the derelict ship that they find? Like, where is the setting?
So the whole setting is on a derelict vessel, which I refer to in there as a colony vessel, because the Shattered Empire, the creatures that created it, they were originally conquerors. They went across the galaxy conquering worlds and all that stuff, and they built these colony vessels to kind of rule over those provinces they took over before their empire kind of fell. And there's only a few of these left, which is something that's also talked about in the story, not really highlighted, but it is talked about as kind of in the background, world building type deal.
Okay, what kind of tech? I mean, obviously you've got spaceships and you got space marine armor. Are we talking blaster rifles? Are we talking chemical weapons? Shiny laser swords?
Ooh, laser swords.
No shiny laser swords. Yeah, no shiny laser swords, but a lot of it's because one of my inspirations for writing, especially in sci-fi, when I was coming up with the idea for the story and how I was gonna work it, because I'm not a veteran. I don't know a whole lot about guns and gunplay, but I do like, I do know a little bit about swords and sorcery and stuff. So I went back to E.E. Doc Smith. I'm not sure if you've read any of the Lensmen, but and a lot of those, they don't use a lot of firearms and guns because they're in a spaceship, and you put a hole through the hole, you're gonna have vacuum, and there is no story because all the characters get sucked out through a hole the size of a penny.
Right.
So it's mainly melee weapons for the most part that they end up using.
Blades. Nice.
Close quarters for the most part, because the lower ranks in the Fel, which are featured in book 1 in Jeremy's main series, they're not given guns. That's something you have to earn with rank. So they start out with lances, and they start with swords and then lances, essentially. So I wanted to play on that.
Nice.
More or less. And one of the you guys asked about side characters.
Go ahead.
One of the main characters that I actually really enjoyed writing was the commander for the Marauders. He's a high priest in this, and I love how just evil and kind of douchebaggy I made this guy, because I just took pretty much every bad guy trope I thought I could put into his character and thought, I'll see if I can cobble that together and make it work. With a few tidbits from people I've actually met. There's one feature in there in particular I put in just because I just thought it was ridiculous when the person I met talked about it. So I thought I'll just share that with the world. That way everybody else can share the dismay that it kind of caused.
Okay, so with your blade weapons, with your swords and lances, are they like power lances, grab lances, or just straight like metal, super metal, space metal kind of vibe to them?
So, in the beginning, artist has in the beginning you of course you see the guys with the regular steel, just regular metal, but the metals used by the Shattered Empire is actually isn't metal. It's actually a what is it? A carapace from giant spiders that they've kind of harvest.
Great.
They harvest
Now
the
another
shells from
word I
that
have to
because
look up.
it seems harder. Like the exoskeletal,
Oh, okay.
like yeah,
So the organic material
they
from
harvest
these
from these spiders.
creatures is being used for weaponry.
Right, because they're in the colony vessels, you can't mine on a colony vessel.
Right.
So, I figured have something in there that was renewable, reusable, something that they could keep a steady supply of, more or less. Because I also wonder, like, how are these guys existing in space if they don't have they don't have a planet, to call home? That's one of the questions I asked.
Okay, so is there anything else about the Ashes of Eternity? I'm gonna throw that cover back on there for one more glorious moment. Is there anything that you think people need to know about the Ashes of Eternity or the Shattered Empire worlds that we didn't cover yet?
Aside from it's an interesting series. I feel like it's different from the almost generic, pulp sci-fi that it's kind of becoming more common in my opinion.
Right.
And it's
okay.
It's fun. It's a fun read, and I enjoyed writing in it.
Well, I guess the next question is, where can we find this beautiful book?
Okay, so actually, it's primarily on Amazon.
Okay.
For the moment, right now it's digital and physical. I actually received my see if I can get it. My physical copy today.
Hold on.
Nice.
Hold it up. There you go.
Bring that up.
Hold it up again so we get your solo screen.
Yeah. So I got my physical copy today. It's not a very big read, so if you don't want to jump, it's a little like easier to jump into something. You're like, oh, I'm not dedicated to a big, huge novel. It's just a little guy. So
yeah, what are we looking at? Like 250 pages?
It's 172, 176.
Oh, nice. Hold on.
I believe.
Damn you people! Now I got to spend money.
All right. So,
I appreciate it.
Obviously, if you buy it, do your part. Please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right book. So seriously, that helps, especially with debut authors. So we've talked about this book, and obviously, if it sells, you're going to pitch a sequel to Jeremy Spires, whose world you're writing in. Are you working on anything else at the moment?
Right. I have a fantasy Sword and Planet series that I want to kick off. I'm outlining it. Actually, right now, I have the document kind of open in the background that I'm looking to get off the ground. I have a few other ideas in the pipeline that I'm still kind of refining and trying to line out.
Okay, so if someone wants,
so there is more.
That is good. That is good. Are you doing any short stories? Get yourself out there across the various platforms and audiences.
I am attempting a few short stories. My problem is a lot of short stories have like word caps. Like there was one I wanted to submit to, but they had a 2,000 word cap, and I just couldn't wrap my brain around telling a full, entertaining story in so few words.
Yeah, I don't
But
know. That
I have been working on some.
Most of the ones,
Yeah.
and I'll get you some links. Most of the ones that I see are 5 to 10K range. I don't know that I could do less than 5K.
Okay, that.
Yeah, my brain hurts just trying to picture telling
Yeah,
a complete story in that few words. But all right, and how can listeners?
Yeah, and that one there's just a few other. There are just a few other stipulations with that one that I just couldn't jive with, honestly.
Okay, so where can they find you on the wild interwebs besides your Amazon store? Do you have like a Facebook profile, author page, any of that?
I have a Facebook author page under Oliver Longchamps.
Okay, and I'll link that in the show notes.
You can find me on my regular Facebook under Ollie Longchamps. I have an Instagram. I believe my Twitter handle is Darth Melkor 1989. If you guys are on Twitter, or sorry, formerly known as Twitter, X now.
Okay. All right, I'll get all of those in the show notes. And as usual, you can find us, dear listener, dear viewer, on our Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast, where we link to all the things, the BitChutes, the Rumbles, the YouTubes, the Twitters, the email Blasters and Blades Podcast at gmail.com for professional purposes only, people. We also have our Facebook group and Facebook page. And most importantly, we have Madam Stabby Stab on the Instagram, Twitters, and the emails where all that hate mail goes. So if you want to talk sports ball with Nick, send the hate mail to Stabby and she'll read it to him in glorious detail.
You can very slowly, too, so I can understand.
She's got to use the little words. You can find us on our website at anchor.fm/Blasters Tack and Tack Blades. Again, anchor.fm/Blasters Tack and Tack Blades, where for as little as 99 cents a month, you can support the show and help keep the lights on. Or you could support the show more directly at buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that it is for the podcast, and I promise I will keep my co-host duly caffeinated. They will drink until the Java pours out of their eyeballs. I want to feel for science. Speaking of coffee, Coffee Brand Coffee, we're an affiliate vendor with them. So you use our link in the show notes below and use the code PODCASTGRUNTS for 10% off. It's American made, American shipped. And I don't know if it's American grown, but it sounds cool to say American. So if you like supporting your local businesses.
It's American adjacent.
Yeah, probably, because coffee's mostly grown in South America, right? I should know.
The good ones are.
I believe
that's
so.
Fine.
So anyway, with that being said, thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades Podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. Thank you for sticking with us through the lag. I promise we will get his Wi-Fi figured out, and we're going to have him back because offline, when we didn't have the lag going on, he's a lot of fun to talk to. And he likes comics, so he's in with Nick, right? That's like step one.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah. He checked all the boxes. Yeah. I mean,
so we're going to fix the tech issues, and we're going to get him back on our panels. Until then, we're out. And